Hello and welcome to The Pulse, the show where we talk about issues concerning us. I'm Tina Jha. This week on the show, we are focusing on the problem of electronic waste, the magnitude of the problem in India, its implications on human health as well as the environment, and possible solutions to effectively manage the tons of e-waste that we are generating every single day. India is one of the biggest producers of e-waste in the world today. The Global E-Waste Monitor 2017, published by the United Nations University, states that India generates about 2 million tons of e-waste annually. It ranks 5th among e-waste producing countries after the United States, China, Japan, and Germany. According to ASSOCHAM, which is one of the apex trade associations in India, e-waste is growing at a compound annual growth rate of about 30% in the country and is estimated to reach 5.2 metric tons per annum by 2020. So in this scenario, management of e-waste has become a huge concern, especially in our country, due to lack of effective disposal and recycling mechanisms. And these toxic electronic waste products are causing immense damage to us and also to our environment. So how can we tackle this huge problem of electronic waste? How can we improve the disposal as well as recycling process of e-waste in the country? And what are the best possible solutions to lessen the damage being caused by the increasing amount of electronic waste? These are some aspects we are going to cover in the course of next 1 hour. And we'll also find answers to these questions on this edition of The Pulse today. Joining me on the program are Mr. Sonu Singh, Joint Director, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Next to him is Akshay Jain. He is Managing Director, Namo E-Waste Management Limited. Shekhar Sharma, he is CEO, Hindustan E-Waste Management Private Limited. And Professor N.K. Goel, he is Chairman, Telecom Equipment Manufacturers Association. So apart from these guests in the studio, we're also being joined on Skype by Shalini Sharma, CEO, ewasteexchange.com. Thank you to all my guests for joining us on this edition of The Pulse. And besides, we're also being joined by a group of young students in the audience who will be participating in the discussion and putting forth their views as well as ask some questions to our distinguished panelists. I welcome all of you on the show as well. So before we begin the discussion today, let's understand what electronic waste is. These are items of electrical and electronic equipment that have been discarded as waste without the intent of reuse. And these include discarded computer monitors, motherboards, mobile phones and also chargers which we are using daily, compact discs, headphones, television sets, air conditioners, refrigerators, lighting equipment, electronic tools, some toys, sports equipment, as well as medical devices. If you look at the data worldwide of e-waste, the world today is producing as much as 50 million tons of electronic and electrical waste every year. This is estimated to be much more than the weight of all of commercial airliners ever made, or to say 4,500 Eiffel Towers. And that's just 1 year's worth of the e-waste that we are creating worldwide. Out of this, only 20% of global e-waste is recycled every year, which means 40 million tons of e-waste is either placed in landfills, burnt, or illegally traded to other countries or treated in a substandard way. The e-waste produced annually is worth over $62.5 billion, which is more than the GDP of several countries in the world. If current trends continue, global e-waste production will reach 120 million tons per year by the year 2050. According to the Global E-Waste Monitor 2017, India is generating about 2 million tons of e-waste annually. Back in 2005, it was only about 1.47 lakh tons. And nearly 82% of the e-waste generated in our country comprises of personal devices that we are using every day in our lives. In fact, according to another study, the volume of waste is growing at an estimated 21% annually. Mr. Singh, Going by the numbers, the problem looks enormous, both across the world and also in India. 2 million metric tons of e-waste annually, expected to reach about 5 metric tons in the next 1 or 2 years. Of course, the magnitude of the problem is huge. But what led to this situation? If you could point out a few factors that has led to this surge in the generation of electronic waste in India.
See, e-waste is generated from the electronic equipments we are using. So with the economic growth of the country, with all the electronic or digitization, I should say, in our life, electronic equipments are coming in. Like everything, you can do all the bank transaction on your mobile. So mobile is a necessity. And now mobile has taken up the camera and other things as well. And now everyone can afford. So affordability is also increasing. This has led to the increase in usage of the material or electrical and electronic equipment, and this has led to the generation as well.
And what are the problems that we are facing when we have to manage this huge amount of electronic waste?
Yeah, the issue with the management is that the electronic equipments, they have got PCB in. And PCB contains gold, copper, and other precious metals. And this PCB goes into the informal sector for the recycling. So that is the main issue. It is not managed in environmentally sound manner. If whole lot of e-waste is channelized to the formal sector and it is recycled in the formal sector, there will be no issue. The issue is that in informal sector, the acid leaching, the PCBs are cooked, and the leftover material which has low value or no value to the informal sector, that goes into the drains. So that's the big issue, the big environmental issue.
So we'll talk about the steps that the government is taking in this regard, but let me come to you, Akshay. E-waste is much more expensive, much more hazardous as compared to the other waste. So what prompted you to come into this sector, and what are the kind of challenges that you're facing towards recycling?
Well, actually, whenever we talk about waste recycling, we have to see where is the value in the waste. The reason why we are facing such enormous issues with solid waste is that there is no value. So the recycler, if you are recycling it, you need to have your profit or that money coming in from an external source. But in electronic waste, there is certainly some value, like because of presence of precious and semi-precious metals, as well as usable plastics. So there is certainly a value in e-waste, and that's why it makes a more sensible business when you're recycling e-waste compared to other non-valuable waste. And that prompted me, and of course the numbers, the rate of generation of e-waste.
Yes.
And I would like to add on to a previous point that also lifestyle upgradation is causing us to buy more gadgets and use more gadgets. Is the convenience is also prompting these things. So I think this is bound to grow. The problem is grief, of course, if we need to have real solutions for e-waste recycling.
Shekhar, another problem is that, the mechanism for disposal of these electronic waste items, not everybody is completely aware of what to do when your electronic item becomes obsolete. What are the kind of challenges that you as your organization have been facing for the past few years that you've been working?
See, as we can say, we can categorize the consumer of that electronic product in two categories. One is the domestic users, one are the corporate users.
Okay.
So if we are talking about the domestic users, they have e-waste, and they have that, like we can say every user or every domestic user having at least 1 or 3 or maybe beyond that much of electronic gadgets they are using. So that is there, they are lying in their home, right? And they don't know where to drop it out, or maybe where to get it to send it to for the recycling part. So some awareness is still pending to the domestic part. Where coming about the corporates have the bulk consumer of that electronic products, and they are aware how to send it to the recycler, and they can definitely contact us and they can send it to us, and we do the recycling part. And that is the thing we do for the corporate users as well.
Dr. Shalini Sharma, let me come to you, because we're talking about the recycling part of electronic waste. What exactly is the role of your organization when it comes to effectively managing the tons of e-waste that we are generating in the country?
Hi, Tina. Sanshodhan and e-waste exchange has created a platform that's connecting the citizens and businesses to channelize their electronic waste directly to the recyclers. As Shekhar was saying that there is a lot of e-waste into the domestic sector. Of course, there is more than 45% of electronic waste come from the domestic sector. But if you see the lack of awareness among these domestic recyclers, or the convenience infrastructure is lacking, because if they are educated, they are responsible consumer of electronic products, but exactly they don't know where exactly their e-waste will be recycled responsibly. So that's how we created an web app which helps citizens to channelize their electronic waste for safe recycling. Of course, it provides the raw material to the recyclers. So we tie up and we partner with the recyclers. And second is that we serve the corporate and MNCs with our two of the innovations, that is digital flow monitors that help them to manage their not only electronic waste but all the waste within their all the corporate offices. It can be the multi-location offices or the offices pan India. And we have innovated Recirculate. That's a circular economy model in electronic waste management sector that help the corporate and MNCs to move beyond EPR compliance. So that means EPR compliance come inbuilt over there. And this model is awarded by World Economic Forum, also by Ministry of Germany, then RFI UK. So internationally, it is quite known model, awarded model, of course.
We have some youngsters sitting in the audience. Let me ask them if they are aware. What do you do when your mobile phones become obsolete, when you want to buy a new one? What do you do with your old mobile phones?
Most of the times, when I have this question, we do not know what to do with it. So they are just there in our houses, like in our drawers. Right now, we are seeing that people have these shops where we exchange these phones for new phones and we can get some money. So that is what I am doing, and I know some of my friends are doing, but really we do not know what to do with these things.
As we know that in manufacturing one computer, it requires 530 lbs of chemicals and 1.5 ton of water. So instead of throwing it away, we should give it to some I mean मतलब जो नीड जिनको नीड होते हैं, जैसे किसी के पास अगर कंप्यूटर नहीं है.
Dr. Singh, before I come to Mr. Goel, let me talk about, as she has also pointed out, lack of awareness. And of course, the key to better management of e-waste lies in the fact that consumers must be aware.
See, for that cause, we have given responsibilities to the producers themselves, because when they are selling the electronic items, on the box itself, it is mentioned that you should not throw it in the bin, and they have to give information to the consumer on their website that when this material is of no use to you, or when you want to discard it, you should contact on a toll-free number or to a authorized recycling center or to their service center, and they can give it over there. But in India, most of the times what happens is that the equipment changes hands from first hand to second to third hand. But if the equipment goes wrong or it is of no use to them and it cannot be further used, then those mechanisms can be used or it can be given to a recycling center. And there are certain websites as well. There are PROs coming up, and they are also doing awareness programs and giving their numbers. And in fact, if you Google, you can get an N number of places where you can give your electronic items for recycling.
Okay. Yeah. Professor Goel, there is no denying the fact that the e-waste management rules of 2016 strengthened the EPR factor. But are all producers complying with it? Are they meeting their targets?
सबसे पहले तो हम ये कहना चाहेंगे कि सरकार की जो पॉलिसीज हैं बहुत अच्छी बनाई गई हैं. उसमें इंडस्ट्री का कंसल्टेशन था, स्टेक्स था, और हर प्रोड्यूसर को ये पता है कि ई वेस्ट को हमें मैनेज करना है. इंडस्ट्री इसके लिए पूरी तरह से गियर्ड अप रहती है और इंडस्ट्री ने बहुत से कार्यक्रम चलाए भी हैं. अवेयरनेस की बात हर आदमी कहता है. अवेयरनेस ऐसा नहीं है कि एक वर्ड कहने से आ जाती है. हम ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं एज एसोसिएशन ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज एंड एजुकेशन कि इसको हम कॉलेजेस में आप जैसे यूथ के पास भी ले जाएं, जिस तरह से हमने स्वच्छ भारत किया, जिस तरह से प्लास्टिक के वास्ते बात कर रहे हैं, इसकी भी एक जरूरत है और उम्मीद करते हैं आना चाहिए.
Because there is lack of awareness, we will keep collecting that item, keeping it in our cupboards. After a long time, it will go to the kabadi walas. Data says that, Akshay, 95%, about 95% of e-waste is, recycled by the informal sector. And this obviously poses a lot of health hazards to these people who are associated with the sector. What are the kind of challenges that you are facing considering the danger aspect of it, the health hazards? Are people willing to work with you? What is the process through which you are recycling electronic items?
Well, I think, again, awareness plays a very important role. If the people are aware, they are willing to contribute. Like we have got a very good response from wherever we have been. We have been conducting awareness and collection drives. We have been working with various citizen action groups across NCR. So the support has been enormous. But again, the collection part of it, we are yet to make, good moves on that because things are moving, it's taking shape. But again, it's going to take some time before it reaches out to the right people. And see how we manage those hazards. That's the difference between formal and informal recycling. When we are recycling these items, we don't burn the material, we don't use any chemicals, there should be no hazards. The CFC gases, for example, if we see, those are one of the most hazardous things in the white goods, like your air conditioners and refrigerators, because it causes a depletion of ozone layer. So hence, if you can extract the RFCs that comes out of these devices, I think that will bring a huge change. And again, that thing is not visible. These gases, these are not visible in terms of when they're emitted, but their hazards, their effects are enormous again. So this is the difference between formal and informal recycling, where we check all those hazards. The process is completely non-hazardous, and every material is disposed as per the value in it and as per the required standards.
Okay. Shekhar, what are the kind of safety measures that you follow at your organization?
See, normally it's a very controlled environment where they process the recycling of any e-waste. Because see, as Akshay said, in informal sector, what they do is basically they just burn it out, they extract whatever the metal they can extract, and rest they can send for the landfilling or for trading purpose. But in a recycling plant, everything is in controlled environment, like how this plastic is going into the crusher machine and then going through the granulation and converting to the plastic dana and all for the recycling part. Same is with the metal also, like they are compressing the metal in a very controlled environment like glass or the CFL tubes, which are very harmful or hazardous in term. So that need to be crushed and processed in a very controlled environment where the fumes and everything which is coming out from that CFL tubes, that need to be processed very controlled environment where you have the vacuums which vacuum all the airs which is coming out while processing the CFL tubes or the CRT tubes, which you had seen that old CRT tubes, the TVs. When they break that TVs, so this is very harmful for the human health. So all the informal sector, what they are processing is in an open environment. They are just breaking it and they don't know what is happening to their health. Yes. Finally, they came, whatever the problem they are facing after some time, they may have the nervous system problem or maybe the kidney failure issues there. So they come later on. Initially, whenever they are doing, it is not visible to them. But in a recycling environment, that is not harmful to them because it is very like they have to wear the mask, they have to wear the gloves also. All the safety measures they have to take, then only they have to process any e-waste.
Certainly. Towards strengthening the formal sector, the government has brought in certain rules and those are implemented effective as well. But in case of non-compliance by producers, what is the government doing? Are there any penalties, fines for these companies which are not following the rules?
Yeah. See, these rules are not very old. In fact, I should begin with the history of the rules. Like these rules came in 2011. And in those rules, the EPR component and other things were inbuilt. But that rules were not implemented because there was no target given to the producers. In 2016, when we revised the rules, we gave the targets. Targets were around 30% to begin with. But then too, there were some issues with the industry. There was no ecosystem. So we again amended the rule in 2018. And, in 17. on 30th October 17, the notification was issued. And in that notification, around 10% of the target was given to the producers. And in this EPR target, the things have started rolling. Now the producers have started collecting through PROs, through other mechanisms, because rule is very open that producer can do anything, take any measures to get the equipments back for formal recycling. And because the targets are on the producers, price is determined by the producers, so by coming of these rules, an ecosystem will be built. It is not just that we should fund some recycler or some recyclers should be given or facilitated so that they can do a formal recycling. It is about building an ecosystem that the material flows channelized, people are aware, and it goes to the formal sector. We know that if it goes to the informal sector, what are the harms? It harms environment. There are occupational hazards as well.
Certainly, because it's done in a very unscientific manner.
So by coming of these rules, I hope that recyclers will be facilitated by getting the material.
But what about those who are not complying with the rules? Is there any, sort of rule, something that acts as a deterrent for these companies? Because I was just reading a report last week which said several multinational giants, the addresses that they have given as recycling e-waste collection centers, they're non-existent. Yeah. Those are addresses of residents. So what do you do in cases of multinational giants which are not complying with the rules?
Yeah. See, in the past, CPCB has been taking action against these producers who have defaulted with their EPR plans. And in case in future, if they do not meet their targets, the producers would not be in a situation to put their material in the market. Means that they cannot sell the material in the market. So that's a deterrent we have put in the rules.
Professor Goel, there is also a concern that, a lot of producers, they are not just, in order to, perhaps not incur the cost that comes with recycling, they also sell these e-waste items to the informal sector. And as we've been discussing, the process is done in a very unscientific way. It poses occupational and health hazards.
Nobody in the industry, I think, is happy to give it to informal sector. We are always happy to give it to the formal sector because they are organized, they are well balanced, they know the rules, regulations, and safety. So this is not correct to say that industry will give to informal sector, not correct. Informal sector is primarily given by the users at some part of the country.
So is there a mechanism to verify the claims that these producers make?
As an association, we are always with them. We always bring them the awareness and rules, and we also follow that they should follow the government norms.
I'm Tanu Nandil from KNC. Sir, my question is to you. According to UNDP 2015 report, 90% of world's world's electronic waste is illegally dumped in India. Why, sir? This is our motherland. How can anyone else do that too illegally? What are the future policy policy measures government is going to take to stop this illegal dumping in India?
Okay, let me take that question to Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sharma, she has raised a very valid concern that when we are generating about 2 million metric tons of electronic waste, what is the need to import such a large amount of waste from other countries?
So if we go to the challenges back, that why this import is happening, a lot of electronic waste is flowing to the informal sector because of the reasons that citizens, they don't find the convenient infrastructure for the disposal of the electronic waste. And that's how we came up with the web app that we say ewastexchange.com. That is working very well in Hyderabad, and we have expanded in Lucknow. So the citizens, somewhere around 1.2 million citizens here in the city are using that. The electronic waste goes directly to the recycler. And why we partner with the government authorized and technically competent e-waste recycler? For this very particular reason, the concern that she has raised. So that the authorized recycler should get the raw material and also the outflow to the informal sector should be restricted.
Okay.
Another second challenge is that the recycling infrastructure in India is also not well developed. So with my previous organization, I worked on the industry and investment trade policies of around 3 states in India. When that industry and investment trade policy, when it came on my desk, very particularly, I have put up the clauses or the points saying that how the waste management infrastructure need to be developed in our country. And if you see the industry and investment trade policy of Telangana and Punjab and 2-3 states which I have seen, it's talking about the waste management system where the recycling unit should come up in every industry cluster, depending on the nature of the industry cluster. So for example, if it's industry cluster is dominating with the plastic, so there should be a plastic recycling unit.
Well, as far as import of electronic waste is concerned, it is all the waste for, if we say hazardous or other waste, any sort of waste. If it is imported or exported, it is regulated by Hazardous and Other Waste Management and Transboundary Movement Rules 2016.
Okay.
And in these rules, we have never allowed electronic waste to be imported in the country because we don't have recycling facilities.
Okay.
We do allow some sort of waste to be imported like batteries, like rubber tires, but we have never allowed electronic waste for recycling.
And what is the kind of use that these imported e-waste items have?
If we talk about used electronic equipments, so they are allowed to be imported by the actual user for their use. Okay. If they have got some life of 5 to 7 years and they have been refurbished and they are not very old, not more than 5 years old, they are allowed by the IT industry for testing purpose, for some of the medical devices are allowed, but not for recycling or dumping. If it comes illegally, then customs are there. They check each and every, I think, the material which is inflowing to India, and as far as electronic items are concerned, they are not allowed for recycling in India because we don't have state-of-art technology or state-of-art facility for recycling.
Before I come to you, one quick comment from Professor Goel.
Actually, Mr. Singh is right. Electronic waste is not allowed to be imported very clearly. Even for the second-hand thing to be used by customers in person, we were having a demand for import of second-hand phones, which was not allowed earlier, now allowed, subject to approval by BIS.
Okay, okay.
I am Bimansa from Kamala Nehru College. According to Greenpeace report 2007, India generated 3,80,000 of waste, e-waste especially. Now, only 3% of them were put to proper recycling facilities. So, basically, I would like to ask how people can ensure that the e-waste which they are going to generate will be put to an authorized recycling facility.
People should just make sure that they're disposing it in the right manner. I think the responsibility starts right from the user. So when the users are aware that there is a formalized mechanism, you don't have to necessarily give it to a kabadi wala just in exchange of some value. So the responsibility, I think it starts from every individual and then passes on to everybody in the value chain or to all the stakeholders.
Perhaps that's because you get better value from the kabadi wala as compared to, the producer.
Yeah.
The producer would give you very little value for your used product.
That's the case, but I think with the new EPR system, the EPR scheme, the rewards are coming up from these producers. Now, we can see a lot of buyback schemes and take-back mechanisms being implemented by the producers. So, like he said, they are now creating an infrastructure for the product to actually come back from the consumer directly to the recycling facility through a producer or aggregator or collection centers.
Okay.
But I think EPR is giving that extra cushion, that deficit which was earlier there.
सर, क्या जिम्मेदार संस्थाओं को इस विषय पर ध्यान देना चाहिए कि जल्दी ई कचरा बनने वाली चीज़ें या तो उत्पादित ना की जाएं या तो उनके उत्पादन को हतोत्साहित किया जाए, अगर कहीं बाहर में हो रहा है तो उसको आयातित ना किया जाए, जैसे कि चाइना से आने वाला इतना ऐसा ईयरफोन्स वगैरह हैं या फिर बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं, ट्रिमर वगैरह, तो जो जितने पैसे के लिए आते हैं उतने दिन भी नहीं चल पाते हैं.
प्रोफेसर गोयल,
एक्चुअली एक लाइफस्टाइल का क्वेश्चन है, ये सोसाइटी का क्वेश्चन. जैसे जैसे हम तरक्की कर रहे हैं, नई चीज़ों की तरफ अट्रैक्ट होते हैं, उसमें प्राइस पे चले जाते हैं, इसका सॉल्यूशन किसी के पास नहीं है। हम हर चीज़ एडवांस चाहते हैं, हर चीज़ सस्ती चाहते हैं। टेक्निकली कोई इंपोर्ट नहीं कर सकते जब तक वो गवर्नमेंट से अप्रूवल ना हो, स्टैंडर्ड्स का, स्पेसिफिकेशंस का, BIS का या TEC टेलीकॉम डिपार्टमेंट का। अब लोग इलीगली करते हैं तो वो अलग पॉइंट है। लेकिन हम इसमें फिर दोबारा से कह रहा हूँ, हम ये उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि आने वाले समय में जो आप जैसे यूथ जनरेशन है, ये इस पर एक एक्टिव रोल लेंगे। जैसे इन्होंने कहा, हम क्यों फ़ोन को फेंक रहे हैं, हम फ़ोन करके दे सकते हैं, ये आएगा। अगर आज स्वच्छ भारत हिंदुस्तान में चल रहा है तो कल को ई वेस्ट का मैनेजमेंट भी आएगा, पक्का आएगा।
सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि जब हम 2 मिलियन टन कचरा उत्पादित करते हैं हर साल और उसका हम 4 लाख टन के आसपास ही उसका रिसाइकिल कर पाते हैं, तो जो 16 लाख टन से अधिक कचरा बचता है सर, उसको रिसाइकिल करने के लिए सरकार क्या कर रही है? इस समय जब भारत में बेरोजगारी इतनी चरम पे है, तो क्या हम उसके लिए अगर रिसाइकिल करने की कुछ बढ़िया इंस्टीट्यूट मतलब क्या संस्थान खोलें तो उसमें हम लोगों को रोजगार दे सकते हैं, तो उसके लिए सरकार क्या कर रही है? और सर आपसे ये है कि सर आपने कहा कि हम सेफ्टी का ध्यान रखते हैं, तो किस तरीके की सेफ्टी है सर? क्योंकि शीशा उद्योग में बहुत सारे लोग जब काम करते हैं तो उनकी आंखें चली जाती हैं, तो कृपया इसको थोड़ा समझाइए कि किस तरीके से जो कचरा को रिसाइकिल कर रहे होते हैं उनके लिए किस तरीके की सेफ्टी की व्यवस्था है?
कम टू यू, एक और क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं।
सर भारतीय मूल के एक वैज्ञानिक हैं वीना सहजबाला, जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पहली, शायद वर्ल्ड की पहली माइक्रो फैक्ट्री बनाई है, जिसका काम है कि लैपटॉप्स और ये क्या कहते हैं स्मार्टफोन्स को रिसाइकल करके, उसका ई वेस्ट को रिसाइकल करके एक अच्छी सामान में बदल देता है। तो क्या वो हम इंडिया में ला सकते हैं और ला के हर एक जिले में उसको स्थापित कर सकते हैं?
Innovative techniques, certainly, sir. You would agree that we need more of these techniques to perhaps upgrade our recycling method.
लेकिन इसमें बजाय इसके पहले गवर्नमेंट जवाब दे, ये तो हमारी जिम्मेदारी है, स्कोप है। अगर इतना ई वेस्ट है तो हम एज ए सेल्फ एंटरप्रेन्योर आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते, काम लगा सकते हैं, कर सकते हैं।
बिल्कुल, वो अल्टरनेटिव्स हमें भी सोचने पड़ेंगे।
हमको सरकार से सारी फैसिलिटी मिलती है, सारे इंसेंटिव मिलते हैं, और ई वेस्ट को वो सब इंसेंटिव मिलते हैं जो बाकी इंडस्ट्री को।
बट सर, द पॉइंट दैट ही रेज्ड दैट टू स्प्रेड इट आउट टू अदर सिटीज एज वेल, किसी एक ने एक जगह किया, वी ऑब्वियसली नीड सपोर्ट।
वो तो पॉइंट अलग, उसका मैंने जवाब नहीं दिया।
बिल्कुल,
उसको भी एज ए एसोसिएशन हम प्रमोट कर रहे हैं। हर मीटिंग फोरम में ये 2-3 एग्जाम्पल्स आते हैं और उम्मीद करते हैं आगे बढ़ेंगे। ये एक इवोल्यूशन है, थोड़ा प्रोसेस चल रहा है। दिक्कत सिर्फ ये आती है, हम पानी पीना चाहते हैं प्लास्टिक की बोतल में और प्लास्टिक को वापस नहीं देना चाहते। यही हाल मोबाइल का है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक का है, या किसी चीज़ का भी है। हम ये देख रहे हैं कि ये इवोल्यूशन होगा कुछ दिनों में, इट विल चेंज।
पहले तो मैं उनके लिए बोलूँगा जो बोल रहे थे कि इसको जो संस्था है किस तरीके से रिड्यूस कर सकती हैं या कैसे रीयूज़ कर सकती हैं। सी, जो हमारा ई वेस्ट का रिसाइकलिंग का जो प्रोसेस है, दैट इज़ बेस्ड ऑन 3R। अगर आपने नेट पे सर्च किया होगा या कहीं पे, सो 3R बेसिकली रिड्यूस, हाउ यू कैन रिड्यूस द ओरिजिनेशन ऑफ दैट ई वेस्ट, रीयूज वॉट एवर द मटीरियल कैन बी रीयूज्ड, शुड बी रीयूज्ड। आपके पास फ़ोन होगा, घर पे होगा, डेफिनेटली you have changed that phone, or maybe you have changed your laptop also. Now old laptop is lying there in your cupboard, okay, but still there are population in India which they require, they need it, and it is a good we can say cost effective gadget for them, which is useful for them, right? So second is reuse, how they can reuse, and the third one is the recycle, whatever the waste has been spare जो reuse नहीं हो सकता, that need to be sent for the recycling part. Okay.
Dr. Sharma, do you agree with Shekhar that regular upgrades in technological devices also require upgrade in the recycling process, and how challenging is that?
Yeah, it can be done, and of course in the new policy it also says that there are 3 different categories: refurbishers, dismantlers, and recyclers. And another provision that government has given is talking about 3 type of organizations only can handle the electronic waste. So one is of course PRO to assist the industries. Second is e-waste exchange to assist the industries, but we have initiated service for society also. And third is of course the recyclers. So this time in the new policies, this provision has come for the first time of refurbisher, dismantler, and recycler. And all these kind of people, they really need to register with the State Pollution Control Board. But of course, giving a non-working gadget to somebody who is working at our home or labor, that is not going to solve any of the challenge.
Certainly.
Or importing the electronic waste, by like the MNCs, they import the electronic waste and then they give it to their worker or donate it. In the name of donation, it goes to the villages, and then reverse logistic is not there so strong from the rural areas or from the working class or labor class people to go back into the system for the recycling. So that is kind of a tough thing. So that need to be looked into, of course.
Dr. Singh, is recycling the only option when it comes to managing e-waste? Can we also have some other methods, some other techniques that the government could be working on?
First of all, because there were 3 questions, I couldn't give answer to them. So the first question was that, for first question, I would like to respond that there is design for environment now. A concept is coming. If you would have seen that there were different chargers for the mobiles. Now, companies or producers are coming up with a single type of charger, which can fit in all the mobiles. So now producers are also going towards the environment. EPR concept is not just collection and channelization, it is also about recycling. So now producers are thinking to make the equipment in a way that it can be dismantled easily. And it can be recycled. You can get a value out of it if it can be dismantled easily. So now producers are coming up, people are coming up with the technologies so that the recycling is also made easy. And the second question was about the institutions and how government can promote recycling. So for electronic items, there is a institute, CMAT, in Hyderabad, which is working on low-cost technologies for recycling, and particularly with the motherboard. And there is an institute, CPET, for plastic recycling. And they have come up with various technologies that how plastic coming out of e-waste can be recycled in an environmentally sound manner. And the third question was about various ways that that electronic item can be used. So first thing, it is it should be used for what it is meant. So it can be refurbished and the life can be extended and it can be further used. The other thing is, like, if you would have seen the batteries of the laptop. So if laptop is not working but battery is still there, so battery can be taken out and used for, I had seen a startup for that, so I'm sharing it, that those batteries were combined together and made a big battery for the inverter. And it was connected with the solar panel, so it was giving energy to the places where electricity is not there. So through solar panel, you can charge those batteries and it will work there. So these are the things, these are the solutions which people are coming up with that.
Good evening everyone, my name is Shivam Sharma and I am from Delhi College of Arts and Commerce. Ma'am, I just want to add on to your question that there are some elements which cannot be recycled. And one of the most prominent example is PVC. Almost every electronic item contains wires and that has a PVC covering on it and that cannot be recycled. I mean, I have personally observed this thing that when I used to melt those PVC wires, they don't even melt and they have a very bad fumes. So my question is just to that manufacturing department, that are we having any kind of substitute to that PVC? Because that is one of the most dangerous, I can say, e-waste which we are producing.
Okay. Another question, then we come back.
Ma'am, we are all talking about recycling the electric waste, but we are not talking about the electric waste that cannot be recycled. What happens to the waste that cannot be recycled?
Yes.
Is it just dumped or something is being done with it?
Okay. Professor Goel, आपसे शुरू करते हैं. Is there an alternative to PVCs?
Alternative to PVC is also being explored and is being used. There are some questions with regard to cost, etc. But we are hopeful over the period of time this will be solved. As regard, you said which cannot be recycled, of course they will answer it. But we, as he was saying, somebody from other country, another thing, I have also seen some of the purses made for ladies only by the chip or by the SIM card. So people are innovating all these things, and India is known for startups. We have lots of innovations.
Akshay, you want to take on what he said? What happens to the goods that cannot be recycled?
First of all, PVC is actually recycled. It's not like that it is a completely non-recyclable item.
Okay.
From wires, we shred the wires into size of less than 1 mm, and then the granules are being sent to the PVC reuse factories. So for them, it becomes a raw material. But yes, an alternative to PVC should be explored, because yes, this is hazardous, but the kind of properties that it has, I think it's hard to replace PVC in the near future. Well, apart from that, there are very few materials which cannot be recycled or cost effectively recycled, or there is no value in it. But at the same time, there is a process called incineration. Now in incineration, everything is burned in a scientific way, so that there is no fumes and hazards, and then a creation of energy by the burning of waste. So that the waste which cannot be recycled by the easy processes, that goes for incineration, and every material that goes for incineration has a different temperature where it is being incinerated and put to zero value.
Okay, Shekhar, because we've been talking about these appliances that cannot be used, among the smaller and the larger appliances that we are using every day, which have made our lives much more easier and convenient, which are the ones that are more hazardous to health?
We can say the CFL tubes, right? We can say batteries, which normally cells, which you use in domestic household also. See, normally we have a tendency कि जो cells वगैरह होते हैं घर पे, what we do, I think most of us just throw it into the dustbin, but that should be go to the proper recycler, okay? And everything like as you said, other things, smallest part you can say all these batteries and hazardous में CFL batteries comes into that, and other things are like PVC. He said PVC is also there, which is very hazardous, and then don't need to send or through to the dustbin. Okay, that need to be go through a proper channel or proper recycler, that to be done. Or we can say hazardous things.
CFC gases.
CFC gases and all.
One of the most hazardous things apart from mercury, which is present, because mercury is very it causes a huge damage for the human body. Okay. So after that, I think it's the CFC gases which should be treated very carefully. And also CFC gases can be reused, so there's no rocket science for it. A lot of people do it. And I think during the dismantling of electronic goods like refrigerators and air conditioners, it is very important to take the extraction of CFC into consideration.
Okay. Any more questions from the audience?
Actually, I would not up for a question, but I would like to say I totally agree with sir that the responsibility starts with the user itself. Definitely, I like as a citizen of India and as a student, as a youth, I would love to say I think as individuals we are much more lazy to go up to an organization and give up all the obsolete material that we have, all the e-waste that we have in our houses. But maybe if we come together, like the whole university or like the whole college comes up and we make one organization, like we have societies in the DU and all, we make up and we give obsolete things to them, and then they go on one day and just do that. I think that would work out, because as individuals it is more we are reluctant to it. We just don't want to do it.
We had gone through facts that most of the e-waste is generated by personal devices. So every second day we see that new phone and new earphone get launches, and we really get attracted by it, and we just want to grab it as fast as we can. And therefore we make our old phone just thrash out it, and at the personal level, at the range of new products which are getting so much out is more than the old gadgets which are just getting repaired and recycled. Okay. So I want to ask the question that why we can't just make a strict policy towards manufacturers who are just making these products at very large scale?
That would be going against evolution. if you stop a new innovation or a new lifestyle product that is going against the evolution, that is the whole thing about science and technology. It is for the benefit of people. So lifestyle products are supposed to come in, but we should be responsible when we are manufacturing those products, that what would happen after the end of life of this product. So if that part is considered and that part is taken care of, we should have no problems with new technologies and new products.
Shekhar, you wanted to take up the first question?
Yeah, actually she was saying that we cannot send it to the proper channel, okay, and we need someone who can come to our door and get it collected, and then they can channelize to the recycler. Where I would say it's a lifestyle, where we are just now we are going for the plastic ban, or we can say polythene ban, right? We all have the tendency that we don't carry any bag. We go to the market, we buy, we say, boss, can you please give me the polythene bag, right? So that is the tendency we have accepted, and we are following it, right? But now we have to change. We should be responsible to the environment, that how we have to do it, because it is not feasible for every recycler or PRO or any industry to reach out to your home for collecting that e-waste, which is not having a very good worth, or we can say amount which is a logistic cost is higher than the cost of that particular product, right? Where if you are responsible, you can send it to a collection center or a collection bin, then it can be collected. It's a small, we can say, small efforts from your side that you can send it to the collection bin.
I have two things. One for the students. In the case of Northeast states, I find people are more responsive for the things. And in so many colleges, they have started a system of keeping some type of box or bin, and all students, etc., they simply put whatever thing they place there, and then the college phones to them. Why can't all of you start this thing in your college itself? But कोई खर्चा नहीं करना है, एक बॉक्स रख देते हैं. आपके सवाल का जवाब ये है, टेक्नोलॉजी वाले तो टेक्नोलॉजी बनाते रहेंगे ना. अगर आप एडवांस फ़ोन लेना बंद कर देंगे तो टेक्नोलॉजी कौन बनाएगा? अगर आज टेक्नोलॉजी 5G की बात चल रही है, आप 5G मत लो तो बंद हो जाएगा बनना. हम ले रहे हैं इसलिए वो बना रहे हैं.
But to catch up with the times, we obviously need newer technology, right? You wanted to add something?
So, as you said that you can organize some event where you're going to collect your e-waste as a community. So, we as an organization, we have been going out for these community drives, community awareness and collection drives. So, like we said, there is a gap, like every recycler cannot go to an individual to collect it. So similarly, I think the community drive model, which is there in the EPR, the government has introduced it. They have given the extra onus on producers for creating that awareness and infrastructure for the take back of e-waste. So I think as a society as well, if people like you, the youth, you can organize these community events, and we'll be happy to participate, because as a recycler, we'll be getting our raw material at a much cheaper cost. So that is a win-win situation for all of us.
Dr. Shalini Sharma, I would like to take one concluding remark from you on what is the best possible way forward when it comes to tackling this huge pressing issue that we face today.
We have hammered right on the issue which was just being discussed here, that recyclers cannot go and collect it from the door, and that is the solution that we provide. We collect electronic waste from the door and give it to the recyclers. We do the collection drives also. So the solution that is provided by ewasteexchange.com is same, but we are trying to partner with more and more municipalities, especially the municipalities into the smart cities, so that we can make e-waste free smart cities. So solution is now present in 2 cities, Hyderabad and Lucknow, but we are trying to have join hands with more municipalities to serve this whole supply chain, right from the residential segment, mean citizens, to the recyclers.
All right, it needs to be an inclusive approach. Dr. Singh, in the course of my research, I also read somewhere, in fact, the IFC was saying that e-waste sector in India will create about 500,000 jobs by the year 2025. How much potential do you see in this sector contributing towards our country's economy?
Yeah, potential. Potential is much more than that. In fact, the question from the audience was that nobody is there to collect my e-waste from my home. No, there are. There are many PROs, many agencies nowadays who can come and collect your waste from your home, from your doorstep. You can find many places near the metro station, in the malls. There are counters which you go there, they will just take your equipment, will decide the price and pay to you. So you can find many of such solutions nowadays. So there are potential recyclers are coming up. If we see in the past, there were around 150 recyclers, and now, as on date, there are around 320 recyclers, authorized recyclers who are doing recycling.
It's just that the need of the hour is to spread awareness more rampantly.
Yeah.
Dr. Goyal, एक final comment आपसे लेते हैं, फिर program close करेंगे.
मेरे ख्याल से ई वेस्ट की प्रॉब्लम जैसे बताया कि लाइफस्टाइल के साथ आई है, सरकार इसके लिए काफ़ी स्टेप्स ले रही है, इंडस्ट्री भी ले रही है, और अब ज़रूरत है हिंदुस्तान के यूथ को आगे आने की.
बिल्कुल. So what all our panelists are suggesting is that efficient management of e-waste can be successfully achieved in the country only if the responsibility is shared between the government, producers, of course, the consumers of e-waste. Initiatives have to be taken at all levels, and cooperation must be extended towards the government also in facing this pressing environmental issue before us. With that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Pulse. Thank you to all my guests for joining us and sharing your perspective with us on the program on this very important subject. I also thank members in the audience for participating and making it into a very healthy discussion today. I also thank Dr. Shalini Sharma for joining us and sharing your perspective with us on the program. So we will be back same time next week with another topic and of course a different set of panelists. You can also watch our program online on YouTube and Twitter. And don't forget to send your feedback and suggestions about our program as well. Thank you very much for your time.